The Dragonknight is a new class mod available on Baldur's Gate 3 and on consoles. So we're going to go with the Frost Knight this time, mixed up from the Fire Knight. Can have different items, all that sort of stuff. So of course, let's jump straight in. We're going level by level with a combat tutorial, all that fun stuff. And you will have to excuse me if I sound funny, I do have a bit of a cold, but alas, we push on. So we start with the Dragonknight, and you'll see when we do the Dragonknight we have a bunch of proficiencies. Light armor, shields, glaives, halberds, pikes, and spears. For our cantrips, we are going to take Sacred Flame, and we're going to take Shocking Grasp. I like both of these. Bit of radiant damage, bit of lightning damage. I think these pair very, very well with like frost and water. For your abilities or your spells, for the first level, we are going to take Armor of Agathis, and we're going to take Shield. Shield is a really nice reaction spell, improves your armor class by 5. Armor of Agathis, obviously, being incredible. Nice way of getting some temporary hit points, and enemies will take damage for dealing damage to you. For your Draconic Heritage, you can actually pick whatever you want. No scales, any colour, they have no effect on gameplay or stats. And we go with the Frost Knight. This will give you solid footing, so you're used to walk on slippery surfaces, you're immune to prone due to ice or grease. And we get Rare Frost as a cantrip, and Ice Knife as a spell. For your ability points, we're going to have 16 Strength, 10 Dexterity, because this is a Strength build, 14 Constitution to help with those hit points, 10 Intelligence, 8 Wisdom, these are interchangeable, and 16 Charisma. For your skill proficiencies, take whatever you feel like, and that brings us to Dragonknight level 2. Now, we get more spells at this point, and for this one, we are going to take Hellish Rebuke, another really nice reactionary spell. I think this is great. It is fire damage, doesn't quite fit the theme of frost, but a reactionary damage dealer is amazing. Now we get a Draconic Talent at this point, and I would either take Dragon Sight, so you can see normally in darkness, both magical and non-magical, to a distance of 24 meters, or the Vigor of Tiamat. It kind of depends how much you're going to be using Armor of Agathis. If you're using Armor of Agathis, then you don't really need to worry about Vigor of Tiamat. If you're not, vice versa. So let's take Dragon Sight. Dragonknight level 3 gives you a Chromatic Infusion, so now we can infuse our weapon until long rest with additional 1 to 4 cold damage with a +1 bonus to attack rolls. We get one more spell at this point, so for this one, let's take Chromatic Orb, again tying into that sort of like thunder, lightning, water, frost aspect. Nice little hurl in the sphere, 3 to 24 thunder damage, and possibly create surfaced on impact. Now for a fighting style, there's many options you can choose. For us, we're going to take Defense, getting a +1 bonus to armor class while wearing armor. Dragonknight level 4 brings you your next feat. Now we get one more spell before this point, so for this one, let's take Ensnaring Strike. A strike that basically ensnares your target possibly. It is a concentration, but it's also a bonus action spell. And we get our first feat, and for this one, ability score improvement, strength all the way up to 18. Dragonknight level 5 brings you an extra attack. We also get Mirror Image, which is an incredible spell. I love Mirror Image. Boost your AC by 9. You get 3 duplicates, each one adds +3. When you evade an attack, 1 duplicates disappear, therefore losing +3, but overall, just phenomenal. Level 5 is a great power spike between Mirror Image and the extra attack. Now, for a spell at this point, we're going to take Spiritual Weapon, bonus action spell to just have a summon. Really nice way of dealing around usually 8 to 10 damage, at least in my experience, and overall just a great spell to have. Dragonknight level 6, Chromatic Resistance. The blood of ancient dragons flows through your veins, you're resistant to cold damage, which is great. We also get one more spell, and for this one, we're going to take Scorching Ray. I know it's a fire-based spell, but hurl 3 rays of fire, each ray dealing 2 to 12 damage. Incredible. Dragonknight level 7 brings you the Aura of Chromatic Fury, Cold. Deal 3 cold damage to any enemies who will end their turn within 3 meters. Nice little bonus action. We get one more cantrip at this point, and for this one, let's take Poison Spray. And we get another spell, and for the frost one, I really do like Cure Wounds. Nice little way of just buffing up yourself if you're frontlining. Dragonknight level 8 brings you your next feat, and before that we get one more spell again, and I personally quite like taking Blur. Attacks have disadvantage on attack rolls against you, doesn't affect creatures that don't rely on sight or that can see through illusions. Throwing this up with a nice little mirror image, incredible. We get one more feat at this point, so ability score improvement, strength to 20. Dragonknight level 9 brings you Sleet Storm. Cool thought for Storm that disrupts the concentration of spellcasters, douses fires and creates an ice surface. And what's really good is that we can walk on icy surfaces without taking damage, or slipping is what I mean. We get one more spell at this point, and for this one we're going to take Glyph of Warding. I love this, I've talked about this a lot, but you can basically place this down on the end of your turn like a bomb. So instead of waiting for an enemy to walk into it, place it down on top of a bunch of enemies. There's an ice damaged attack from this, and it'll explode and deal damage to everyone around. Dragonknight level 10 brings you your next feat. So we get one more spell now, and we are going to take Protection from Energy. And we get a feat, so ability score improvement, and we take our Charisma up to 18. Dragonknight level 11 brings you one more spell, so let's take Lightning Bolt. Dragonknight level 12, a new feat is available, so you probably guessed it, Charisma up to 20. You could take something like Shield Master, you could take Savage Attacker. I like just maxing Strength and Charisma, maximum melee, maximum spellcasting. Okay, so let's go over our equipment. We're going to start with Savarok's Horned Helm, get Dark Vision up to a range of 3 meters or 15 if you already have it. We only need a 19 now to roll a critical hit. We cannot be frightened, and Constitution saving throws +1. For a cloak, we like the Flesh Melter Cloak. Whenever we take melee damage, the attacker will take 1 to 4 acid damage. The Blackguard Greaves, so we gain Longstrider and we get a +1 to our athletics. The Flawed Helldusk Armor, so when you hit by a foe within 2 meters, it might take 1 to 4 fire damage, meaning if it's a melee attack, they're going to take potentially fire from your armor and acid from your cloak. We take 1 less piercing damage. For gloves, the Legacy of Masters, +2 bonus to attack and damage roll with weapons. For a ring, the Shifting Corpus Ring to give you invisibility and blur. Paired very nicely with the Caustic Band, so our attacks do an additional 2 acid damage. The Moondrop Pendant, so if we have below 50% hit points or less, we don't provoke opportunity attacks. And for weapons, the Flail of Ages, you can change the element of this to be acid, chilled or burning. Amazing. It also has tenacity, so when you miss an attack, you do an additional 5 bludgeoning damage anyway. And we're going to pair this with a shield. I personally like the Absolute's Protector, because it gives you Fire, Shield, Chill. But if you want more AC, you can take a better one. You take something like Ketheric's Shield, all those fun sort of things. So that was the build, let's go check it out. Okay, you can see we've left camp, so if we come into our Flail of Ages, and we come to here, you'll see normal, 11 to 18, +2 acid damage. So, first thing we're going to do is, when I can see it, Elemental Age. This is on your Flail, the Flail of Ages, and we're going to do the Glacial Age. Gain a +1 bonus to attack rolls and deal an additional 1 to 4 cold damage. Now as you can see, this is a bonus action, but it lasts until a long rest. Now, if we were to come into here, 13 to 23, +1d4 cold damage. So just remember that, because also we have Chromatic Infusion. So if we were to trigger this, as such, if we now come into here, and come down to here, you're going to see it's only switched it to a 1d6. It doesn't total a 1d10. So just bear that in mind. But I really like using the Flail of Ages anyway, because if you need some acid, or if you need some burning, you have the ability to change it to that. So just bear that in mind, that they will not stack. What we're also going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to do the Armour of Agathis. Now spell slots are limited, but let's do it at level 2. And there you go. We now have 10 temporary hit points, and enemies will take up to 10 damage attacking us. Okay, so you can see we're now in the turn order, and what's really good is that we can tank and deal damage. So if we come into middle, as our bonus action, we are going to do the Aura of Chromatic Fury. So any enemies that end their turn within 3 meters of us will take 5 damage. Now just remember, this doesn't work at the end of our turn. But, as a main action, we still have our main attack. And there you go, you see we did acid, cold and normal bludgeoning damage. And the same thing again. And we're in a nice little centre that if people run towards us, we can just hold the line and tank. And there you go, you see we just took a critical hit, but in return they took a critical hit amount of Armour of Agathis. But obviously we're not all just about melee attacking, we have our spells. So if we would come in with a Ray of Frost, just as an example, we'll target this one here, There you go, you see we did 9 frost damage, but we don't have the option to do a secondary spell. It's only extra attack, which is where the spiritual weapon comes in really handy. Because at least if you are going to cast a spell, because enemies are too far away or anything like that, you still have your spiritual weapon that can then come in and attack as well and deal some melee damage. Now it keeps skipping everyone's turns, that's why Jaheira's dead, as you can probably tell, because no one's moved. But that is what the Dragon Knight is really good at, this whole class. Yes, you get the extra like chromic damage and stuff like that, but it's mainly just designed to be a big old tank on the battlefield and just run in and destroy enemies like this with spellcasting capabilities built in. And of course our spiritual weapon can fly around, so let's go back to the enemy up here. And as you see, like I said, it's usually a solid 10 damage every time for some reason. And again, we have our spell. There we go. Don't know why that made everything lag, but there we go. And you see it does pretty decent damage too. You see the spiritual weapon gets to continuously just chase this dude down, keep getting that solid damage. And we still have our person here. And remember, we have the ability that we cannot get slipped on this stuff, which means we can just come in here, chase down this enemy, and continuously take these attacks off. And you see, we've still got our Aura of Chromatic Fury, so if we can trap someone in a corner like this, not only can we continue our mass damage, but there's a good chance that if they're stuck, they'll take the cold damage from our aura and then perish too. And again, we are still a spellcaster, so we have 3rd level spell slots if we were to do an Ice Knife. And there you go, not only is that, there's now a nice slippery surface around it, and they're in prime position for the spiritual weapon to finish the job. Just like that. And what's really good about the spiritual weapon as well is it can fly, meaning eventually we can come up here and start chasing down this enemy. Now obviously we've got a journey to get to the enemy here, so we can trigger our mirror image. Ideally you want to do this earlier in the fight, I've just been showing the damage capabilities, but now our AC is a lovely 30. Okay, so it's time to start finishing this fight. And we're going to chase this enemy down here. And come all the way over here, we've got our Chromatic Fury going. And again, we're just going to start swinging, get a nice little crit. Now we are facing a rogue, because obviously they take less damage, because they're sneaky little bastards. But we're going to try and trap the enemy in this quadrant here. And you see, they just took 5 damage because they're within our aura.
Nothing important is ever easy.
Meaning we can come back in here and continue swinging for the fences. Now obviously you're going to want to play this build more tactically than I am. Obviously I'm just showing you all the abilities you can do and the fun stuff. But it's a really good sort of like frontline tank with elemental opportunities to it. It's a really good mod worth checking out, very balanced in my opinion, so definitely add this to your repertoire. So I really hope you have enjoyed this build. If you have, please drop the episode a like, it helps me tremendously. If you're new and not subscribed but you'd like to, that'd also be amazing. I've got videos for Baldur's Gate guides, Path of Exile guides, videos for God of War, doing streams for it, I've got Dragon Age the Veilguard guides, all that fun sort of stuff, as well as Let's Plays. So, I really hope you have enjoyed, and hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.